Hi there and welcome to this week's vlog. I love reading the Bible, not least because we find in there some fascinating characters, and we have so much to learn from the people that we find in the Bible. They're absolutely human as we are. They experience great highs and great lows. They make big mistakes. They have great triumphs through faith in God. One of my favourite characters from the Bible is the character of Moses. We find there mainly in the book of Exodus in the Old Testament. Moses brought up in splendour in the royal palace, but then he has to run for his life. He becomes a fugitive in a foreign land. And then on a day when he's just out tending the flock that he's looking after for his father-in-law, he has this strange meeting at a bush that is burning but not being consumed, and it's there that he meets with God and has this conversation with God, and God reveals that he's chosen Moses to lead his people from slavery in Egypt, and Moses can't believe it. In fact, in the Good News Bible, Moses says to God, "I am nobody." In other words, God, this is such a big task and I'm just a nobody. I can't possibly do that. But God promises to be with Moses. And there's a long discussion when Moses comes up with excuse after excuse. And God reveals to Moses his holy name, his strange name, I am, or I am who I am. And when you read in the Bible, in the Old Testament, if the word Lord is in capital letters, it's that holy name, pronounced something like Yahweh, but it's written Lord in our Bibles. God reveals something of his name. But it's a passage later on in the book of Exodus that I've been thinking about recently. It's when after Moses and the people had left Egypt, they escaped the clutches of Pharaoh, and they're on their journey toward the promised land, the land of promise that God had promised to them. And Moses, on one occasion, or on several occasions, but this specific occasion, goes up a mountain to meet with God, and he spends time with God, and it's there that God gives him what we call the Ten Commandments. But Moses is away a long time, and the people begin to get restless and say to Moses' brother Aaron, "Look, we need something else to worship. We don't know what's happened to Moses. He's maybe gone forever. We don't know." And so from that conversation and that restlessness, the people bring their gold jewelry, etc. And Aaron forms a golden calf, and the people begin to worship that, and they turn away from the one true God and worship this idol, a golden calf, and they begin, the Bible says, in revelry, and things are getting out of control. And so Moses discovers what's going on, and God says to him, "Moses, I'm so angry with the people that I'm going to destroy them." But Moses intercedes. He cries out to God for the people and says, "God, you've made a promise to this people, and if you destroy them, people will laugh and they'll think God doesn't keep his promises." And anyway, he prays and he intercedes and he cries out to God, and God, we're told, relents. But he's still angry with the people. Moses stands in the gap stands in the gap, as it were, and although they turned away not only from God but from Moses too, he still loves the people. He cries out to them, he prays for them, and God hears that prayer. But that's not the end of the story, because Moses wants to know God more, and he says to God, "Teach me your ways." And when we move from this place, we're not going to go unless your presence goes with us. He knows that the presence of God with them is vital. Without God's presence, they will never survive. But he wants to know God more. He says, "Teach me your ways." And then he says in Exodus chapter 33, verse 18, "God, show me your glory." He wants to know God. He wants to know who God is. He wants to know God's character at a deep level. He's got a longing in his heart. He's got this relationship with God, but he wants to go deeper. I wonder if we can, well, I'm sure we can learn from that. And God grants this request, and God, as Moses is in a cave in the mountain, God passes by and reveals his character, his nature, who he is. And as God passes by, he proclaims these words: the Lord, the compassionate and gracious God, slow to anger, abounding in love and faithfulness, maintaining love to thousands. So there is probably in the Bible the first time when God's nature is truly revealed. It's revealed to Moses. God is a God who's slow to anger. He doesn't fly off at the least thing we do wrong, the first sign of our going off track. He's slow to anger. He's abounding in love. There's a verse in the scriptures in the New Testament, I think it's in 1 John perhaps, but it talks about God lavishing his love on us. God is abounding in love. He longs to pour out his love upon us. So he's slow to anger. He's abounding in love. And he's also a God who forgives. And isn't that wonderful? And we know that because of his gift of Jesus, that we can be forgiven through faith in him. So there we have God revealing himself. Isn't it wonderful that we have a God who wants to reveal himself to us, to help us to know him and as he knows us. A God who is slow to anger, abounding in love, and overflowing with forgiveness. And that should warm our hearts and give us a real sense of well-being. I pray that I and you would have that longing to know God more as Moses did, and be open to God's revelation of himself. So God bless you. Thank you so much for listening today.